Up next, we have combining long-term expertise with fresh ways of thoughts, and that can form a different domain and can be a good recipe for innovative thinking. Mrs. Liat Nadai, former colonel in the IDF unit, 8200, and now Chief of Transformation Officer of the Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center, will discuss the opportunities and challenges of the AI revolution in healthcare with Professor Jens Scholz, CEO of University Hospital, and Professor Roni Gamzo, CEO of Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel, please.
Good morning. Good noon already. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. My name is Liat Arad, and I'm the Chief Transformation Officer and head of iMedData AI Center in the Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center. And I'm proud to first introduce our panel today. So with us from Germany, Professor Jens Scholz. Professor has been CEO of University Hospital Schleswig-Holstein, UKASH, Kiel and Lübeck since 2009, and the first chairman of the Association of German University Hospitals since 2021. He has been a member of the German Academy of Sciences Leopoldina, and since 2024, senator of the Section for Surgery, Orthopedics, and Anesthesiology. I practiced that word about 10 minutes. Formerly, he was professor of anesthesiology and intensive care medicine at the Kiel University in 2022. Professor Scholz was awarded honorary doctorates from the University of Belgrade in Serbia and the National Medical Universities of Kyiv and Lviv for his services in anesthesiology and the organization of university medicine, as well as for his humanitarian commitment. Thank you for joining us, Professor, and welcome.
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
We hear you well.
Okay, very good.
Professor Roni Gamzo, CEO of Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center and one of Israel's leading healthcare managers. Professor Gamzo originally specialized in obstetrics and gynecology, and during the course of his career became an expert in healthcare economics. He has served as senior health policy analyst at the OECD in Paris since 2014. Before beginning his role as the CEO of Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center, he was appointed as the Director General of the Ministry of Health. Professor Gamzo has also held significant public positions within the Israeli healthcare system, including as chairman of the Health Basket Committee and the country's first COVID czar, a position for which he received extensive public acclaim for leading the country's national pandemic response. Thank you, Roni, for joining us as well. So, professors, I'd like to begin with a thought-provoking concept. I believe that in the foreseeable future, healthcare-related data will no longer belong to anyone, not to hospitals, not to healthcare organizations, not even to patients. When the deep understanding of the value of AI-based medicine is a common knowledge, and we've talked about that all morning, when that understanding is common, the requirement for big data will be clear, and sharing data will become obligatory. The promise of privacy will be regulated, but it will not be decided upon by opting in or opting out of the patients. We will have the responsibility. And everyone, people and organizations, will be required to share data. So professors, I'd like to begin with asking you, do you share this vision? Is my perspective misaligned with current paradigms in healthcare? And Professor Scholz, let's begin with you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. And I would like to share that vision with you. And I'm sure that it's how it will be in Israel today. I have been there last year in May, together with many colleagues from other German university hospitals. And we also met Ronnie there at Ichilov, and he was also a guest in my hospital in Lübeck. We have seen that in Israel much more is possible technology-wise due to a more positive attitude towards technology, data sharing, and usage of data, and that it will help us not just in the healthcare system, but in all parts of life. In Europe and Germany in particular, the protection of data, and by that I mean not collecting data at all or just anonymously, is deeply ingrained in society. However, the society is changing right now, and step by step people come to the conclusion that data can save lives, and therefore we have to protect data by security rather than not to collect and use it at all. COVID has shown how much Germany and Europe were behind. Thanks to BioNTech, we have developed a successful vaccination that is closely linked to the German university medicine. But we were dependent on an American company, Pfizer, to make it available globally. During the pandemic and its management, we were dependent on data from Israel and the UK. The pandemic was also a starting signal for us in Germany to establish a network in which all university hospitals in Germany can share data with each other and thus from large cohorts. This is the basis for good research. In Germany, we sometimes must be braver. In Europe, we all work based on the general data protection regulation. Only some countries interpret these rules in a simpler and more research-friendly way than we do in Germany. We in the European Union recently agreed on rules for the use of application with artificial intelligence. What are you allowed to do and what are you not allowed to do? What benefits us, what benefits people and companies? I think this is very important to have guidelines for these questions. This will potentially give Europe a major competitive advantage, and I am therefore cautiously optimistic for Germany and Europe. Europe has the rules and a lot of patience, and therefore a lot of data. Israel has a high level of innovation and creative developers, and I hope together we can achieve a lot.
Thank you, Professor. And Professor Gamzo, will you share with us your view on this?
Although your vision is very smart, very optimistic, and very, I would say, what we are all looking for, I prefer to doubt it. I prefer to doubt it because I do not want to be within illusions of a situation that will not happen, because the barriers of exchanging or making the data available for all are huge in healthcare. They are not only privacy. These are regulatory issues, and I would say even ego between healthcare organization and a lot of interests that are involved. So what we have accomplished maybe in other industries, we have to step and to take as a position that what you have just proposed will not happen. And we must find other ways in order to use the data within a healthcare system in exchange between healthcare organizations, within large healthcare organizations, and within small healthcare organizations. We must first take the target that any healthcare organization in the world, anyone, small hospital, big hospital, health plans, insurance companies, everyone, will make sure that they can use the data in order to surface the knowledge out of the data and to diagnose and to treat in a better way. And this takes, of course, technologies, of course, using the data in a smart way, using AI, making sure that everything is possible. But I'm not sure that what we have accomplished in data exchange between healthcare organizations in Israel, as an example, and what Germany is trying to do now, another example, and what is taking place in many parts of the world, is enough for your vision. So I would like to stay with a challenge and make sure that we are challenging and the policies, the governmental policies in any country in the world, making sure that any healthcare organization is not only storing data, is not only using the data in, in small operations, but using the whole data in order to make sure that they will treat in a tailored way, in a more sophisticated, in a more accurate way, in a precise way, any patient. And making sure that we will use the data in order to make our operation better, more efficient, in a high quality, and of course, reduce the waste that is happening in any healthcare organization. We are still do not treat precisely enough our patient like we have seen in other industries. So I would like to share this vision, but I would like to prepare for that this vision will not come true.
Yeah, and I think on a personal note for our collaboration, our two sides of, which are not really two sides, is the reason that one of the focus points that we're doing today at iMadeData is not only research and development, but is actually lifting the hood, looking at the immense amount of data that we have and building a data platform that will really enable us to use it, because for years we've been very proud of the amounts of data we have, but if it is not usable, accessible, enables us to share and work together, then the data is not good enough for its purpose. I'd like to turn to a question of what we do with this data. So most organizations I find today that are going through this digital transformation are focusing very patient-centric. Ichilov has amazing achievements in digitalization of large parts of the patient journey, and this has immense impact on quality of service, on patient satisfactory, on operational improvement. However, I'd like to suggest to turn more our attention to the caregivers. It was discussed here this morning. If data transformation can substantially lessen the global shortage of caregivers, perhaps we should focus more on what they need rather than on the direct effect on the patient. And Professor, I'd like to start with you, Professor Gamzu. I remember you describing to me the way you used to look at data 20 or 30 years ago and saying it hasn't changed much. If my claim is right, what should we focus on? Can you imagine clinicians having data and data science at the tips of their fingerprints?
For sure, this is the way to look ahead to the future, and we must indeed focus on the caregivers, physicians, nurses, any caregivers. They are handling huge amount of data. The data is there, they are not using it. The technologies are there, they are not using it enough to do better medicine, more precise, faster, tailored to the patient. We are not doing that. The example that I gave you was the way that you are looking at a fetal heart rate monitoring. 20, 25 years ago, I've done that the same that the residents are doing that today. They look at the screen, it can be digitized, but they are not using the digitalization, the mathematics, in order to analyze what's going on in a fetal heart rate of a 10 hours delivery. They are not using that. The data is there. The computation is there. The ability is there. Joining data. You know, when you are looking at the ICU round of an anesthesiologist or ICU expert specialist, he has to look at any patient with a lot of parameters. They are continuously being monitored. However, he cannot by himself do the computation. He needs a supporting system. And the supporting system, the rules, the mathematics, the technology is there. We can use it in order to do the algorithm and then to go ahead. So what I'm expecting for the future, for the next future caregivers, is that all the data will be assessed, analyzed in a way that they can make decisions and they can ask the questions. They need to ask the EMR, the stupid, if I may say, EMR nowadays, questions. What is the highest or the lowest hemoglobin? But, you know, this is only a very simple one because we are now on the lab or the analytic phase using very simple kind of analytics. But the analytics is going to be more and more and more complex. We will use not only genomics and RNA-seq, but proteomics and lipidomics, huge amount of data. And then we will continuously monitor the patient. They will all be monitored. At the same time, we can do image analysis of their pathologies, of their radiologies. Who can analyze this data? So in order to assist the caregiver, I need to give him an analytic envelope. The analytic envelope will be the EMR. The EMR is not a word processing or number processing kind of tool. It must be a chat GPT that you will ask the EMR question on the specific patient. The EMR knows all the data, including the multi-omics of the patient. And then you will know what is the best treatment at this time for this patient at the specific circumstances. This is what I'm looking at the future. This is what caregivers must be assisted within the next decade. The technology is there, the data is here, we only need to put a lot of money, a lot of resources, and have the industry and the academy and smart people like you, smart people that must migrate from startup industry of the fintech, of the cyber, of the autotech, any industries into healthcare, and to do the wonders that they've done there in healthcare.
I don't have my pen here, but I wrote down a lot of money that you mentioned a moment ago. Professor Schultz, moving to you, can you share the key themes that are leading AI adoption that can assist caregivers? And maybe also, is there a challenge in adoption? Are there cultural challenges that you are facing?
Well, first of all, I completely agree with Ronnie in his vision in this point. And I like to mention that I think we need to involve the doctors developing digital applications to make their work easier. And I saw this, that you started it in Ichilov, and we also started this in my hospital. But making the provision of digital tools for clinical faster, easier, and more efficient can be an essential strategy against the shortage of skilled workers. And I like the idea that on the ICU, we have something, we called it not ChatGPT, but former technology was Alexa. And if you think about Alexa, you can also ask questions and you also get impact and answers. And I think this can be a real vision, and it can also be real in the future, because we never thought that ChatGPT will have such an impact in our work today, and it came suddenly to us, and now we have ChatGPT, and so I'm very happy that we will have more technology for our doctors in the hospitals, and that they are supported in doing the work. And if you look for the presentation we had before our talk, then you can see that there's a lot of technology available, what you can include in your clinical applications today. And this will also improve our work.
Thank you, Professor. I'm watching the time, and I'll go to the last question I wanted to ask you today. And as prominent leaders in the healthcare system, I want to ask you about responsibility. What is the responsibility of the healthcare organizations? What is the responsibility of the government? What is the responsibility of the high-tech industry in driving the changes that we just discussed?
I think the biggest responsibility, the most crucial one, is a healthcare leader, any leader of healthcare organization. A leader of healthcare organization nowadays cannot allow himself to have 100 people in his IT division without a dozen, at least, of AI experts, AI data analysts that are giving the challenge to use the data. He must have a clear strategy. He must put resources. You know, 10 years ago, you had to persuade a leader of a healthcare organization to put resources in cyber. Now, you do not need to persuade them. Reality persuaded them. The same thing is now with AI and data, smart data analytics. Government need only to fix as much as possible the regulation. Do not ask money, incentives from the government. Create your own ecosystem. align yourself with the academy, with the industry, with the entrepreneurs, with any kind of part in the puzzle of the ecosystem. This is your responsibility as a healthcare leader. Don't wait for governments.
Professor Scholz?
I completely agree. This is really what we need and what we have done before in medicine. If you look for instance, for radiotherapy, then we have included physicians, physical persons to do our medicine. And now we need AI persons to improve our medicine. And this is really what we need and what we should do. And this is expensive because in Germany it's not paid if you include these persons in your medical care. But we have to discuss this really with the government that we have to improve medicine. And I think AI and all these technologies are helpful. We still need physicians, and I'm sure we will need physicians in the future, but we need support from other persons to improve medicine.
I want to thank you both, and Ronnie, if you allow me to end in an optimistic note. We need reasons to be optimistic these days. I think your answers to these questions prove the need is very, very immense and clear. The leadership exists, the data is there, the technology is not a barrier, but we do need to work hard. And we're up to that. And the second thing we need is collaborations. And I think partnerships like the ones that the two of you prove are key. That makes me optimistic. Thank you for joining us, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Scholz.
Thank you, Ronnie, and see you.